Here's a TV that looks like
my consensual penis.
You know, it's not just Jeff Keighley who can get all the hot new game reveals. It's not just the Game Awards that can get exclusive world premieres. The Jimquisition can get some exclusives of its own. In fact, we've got a juicy, unique bit of news right now. So, the Jimquisition gets to do a reveal, and we get to reveal a card from the Binding of Isaac card game. Duke of Flies, so shove that up your ass, Keighley. Let's face it, the Xbox One is a bit shit. It's not that I don't want to like it, it's taken up space in my living room, it should be fucking liked, considering I could put a Sega CD right where it's sitting. But Microsoft's been trailing in this generation's exponentially pointless console war with good reason. And that reason is the Xbox One is a bit shit. Not the biggest piece of shit ever made, not even top 20 pieces of shit produced by the game industry alone. It is, however, just a bit shit. There is a core reason for that, but while I'm here I'll tell you about the user interface. It's garbage. First of all, it's based on Windows 10, which is by design ugly to look at, and not in the least bit intuitive for anything. All coloured rectangles and squares, overtaken as it is by so much non-game related shit, you'd be forgiven for thinking you turned on a really badly designed smart TV, which is most of them. Now, because the Xbox One is only a bit shit, it's not as bad as, say, the PS3's XMB, or the hilarious mess that was the 3DS eShop. But it's just not very good. The layout is supposed to look sleek and stylish, but it's a gaudy mess of colourful bricks that draws the eyes hither and yon. Every generation, one console must be on top, one console must be stuck behind, and Nintendo will do its weird Nintendo shit regardless of what the rest of the world's doing. Last generation, the Xbox 360 was clearly ahead of the PS3. While Sony had the more powerful machine, the 360 was simply more popular. Third-party console games were developed with the 360 in mind first, and Sony's arrogant attitude created a more expensive, less desirable console. This generation, the PS4 is clearly ahead of the Xbox 360. While Microsoft has the more powerful machine, the PS4 is clearly more popular. Third-party console games are developed with the PS4 in mind first, and Microsoft's arrogant attitude created a more expensive, less desirable console. The more things change, the more they stay the same. Microsoft itself is a pox on the gaming world, creating the Xbox predominantly to challenge Sony just because Microsoft is responsible for premium online services on consoles. It fully indulged in excessive microtransactions immediately this gen, pumping them into its launch titles and setting the tone for an incoming era of pure and total contempt for customers. Hell, they tried to launch the Xbox One with baked-in DRM that'd require a constant internet connection. This is to say nothing of what Microsoft allegedly like to work with, and some of the snidiest shit it's pulled, like that time it demanded Valve not release free DLC for Left 4 Dead because Microsoft didn't like the idea of free stuff. But Microsoft undeniably made a good machine with the Xbox 360. One that broke all the fucking time, but one that had the healthiest library of games, the more affordable price point, and a dashboard so that they changed from badass blades to a less enjoyable, but ultimately clear and understandable interface. Though they couldn't help Windows 10 in that up either. But it's those games that ultimately matter, and Microsoft's biddling performance when it comes to good quality games has left the Xbox One feeling, well, a little bit shit, to be perfectly honest with you. Looking just at exclusives, and we do have to, the Xbox One is utterly failing, and exclusives are what matter here since the PS4 has the third-party advantage. There's not a lot putting the Xbox One over the PS4 in the software department, and what is there hasn't exactly been an inspiration. There are some hits like Quantum Break and, Gears of War Ultimate Edition, but few titles to really set the world on fire. The launch titles were rushed, obnoxiously monetized trash. Gears of War 4 was decent but disposable, a bit of a tired retread that did nothing to revitalize its online mode and sported a disappointing campaign. Halo 5 Guardians was like bringing chickens into an elevator. A fun notion at first until you realize you're stuck with it and going all the way down. Sunset Overdrive, remember that? Few do. Same goes for Recore, an okay enough title that's simply forgettable. The Xbox One is the one console with PUBG on it, but... In terms of games that are worth a shit, you have the aforementioned Quantum Break, a genuinely enjoyable action game that nevertheless hasn't made a lasting impact. You have Cuphead on consoles, which are pretty damn good, and you have Ori and the Blind Forest, which I personally didn't care for, but I acknowledge it's rather beloved.
Consensual penis!
Oh, and State of Decay 2 recently came out, which is fine, except nobody really noticed, and it's basically just State of Decay again. Bear in mind, of course, that every Xbox exclusive is also available on Windows, significantly reducing the value of the Xbox One. Nothing the system has can claim to be unique to the system. Anything coming to the Xbox One is something you can pick up elsewhere. Good for Microsoft, considering it's all tied to Windows, but bad for the Xbox One itself. At least in terms of convincing people it's a must-have system. Then we have Sea of Thieves, which really represents Microsoft's biggest problem. It's thinking too much like a game publisher and not enough like a platform holder. While Nintendo worked hard to ensure the Switch had a constant drip feed of new and unique titles per month, while Sony has been cranking out huge marquee titles designed to fill widening voids within the AAA market space, Microsoft has Sea of Thieves, a game with a really crap launch because there was nothing to do in it back then, sold on the promise of more stuff to come. Stuff that a lot of people probably didn't see because they got bored before it arrived. Essentially, another of these live services publishers have been spunking themselves silly over lately. For third parties, the allure of the games as service model is clear. Fewer products making more money is math that gets any corporation moist, even if it ignores the warnings we all had growing up about putting too many eggs in one basket. But a platform holder's job is different, and Microsoft is failing to do what Nintendo and Sony are doing, which is come up with new titles to keep their console exciting, to keep their console relevant, to keep their console in people's minds. Microsoft's had this issue for a while, behaving like a shitty third-party AAA publisher rather than a platform holder. It's all very well to try and offer a live service to players, but what do you have for those who've already dedicated their time to Fortnite or Warframe or half a dozen Ubisoft releases? What have you got for people who just want a fucking game rather than a service? Because I know where I can get God of War, fucko. There are some promising offerings on the horizon, such as Crackdown 3, and hey, Battletoads may very well be the first good Battletoads game, who knows? But otherwise, we got yet more Gears coming, yet more Halo coming, yet more Forza coming, the same minuscule handful of games time and time again. And yes, Sony goes back to the same well over and over, but not at the rate Microsoft does, and not off the back of frankly disappointing releases. And yet Microsoft wastes Rare, a studio that once had a future but is now just making their pretend pirate service. And all while Ubisoft's bringing out Skull and Bones, which looks way better based on the fact there's shit to do. Rare right now is the equivalent of Braun Strowman in WWE. The corporation has its dream prospect, and yet it's tagging with a little boy at WrestleMania because they don't know what to bloody do with it. And that's why Sea of Thieves is a 10-year-old tag team champion. It became downright farcical when the Xbox One X launched, touted by Microsoft as the world's most powerful console. And the one new exclusive it had to show off all that raw power, this shit. Super Lucky's fucking tail. Nowhere near pushing the limits of any console, let alone the world's most powerful. Outside of old games enhanced for the XBX, this is what we had. Super bloody Lucky's tail. Come on, Microsoft. Pull your dick out of the pineapple. Microsoft's attitude toward game releases has directly impacted the one truly great thing the Xbox One has going for it, the Game Pass. In a word, brilliant. Paying $10 a month to have access to a significant library of games is a terrific idea, something the industry should have been looking at implementing years ago. The world's going the way of Netflix. Eventually the game industry will have to take the idea more seriously. Right now though, Microsoft is failing with the Game Pass due to a lack of exciting content. Most of the games are old, last-gen titles, and not even many of those. Of those that are there, not a huge percentage are worth replaying. Sadly, while the Game Pass is a better deal than Sony's expensive PS Now streaming service that hardly works unless you got the best internet connection, PS Now still has more going for it in terms of library. This should be an easy win for Microsoft, but because it has zero exclusives and a drip feed of forgettable first-party games that aren't worth going back to, the Game Pass is currently hard to justify maintaining a subscription for, and that's on them. It's considered gauche and unoriginal these days to accuse a console of gathering dust, an old joke, but I ask you, what do you do if that's literally true? If you did really have to dust off a piece of hardware to use it, I guess that means I should dust more, but the point still stands. It's what I had to do when I remembered State of Decay 2 existed and decided to play it and find out it was just State of Decay again. It sat there for months, though not through scorn or distaste, but simply because I had no cause to use it. None whatsoever. The world's most powerful console, and I have no use for it. Switching on the Xbox One X this week for State of Decay 2, weeks after it's been out because it released without consequence, is the first time it's been on since the Xbox One X came out. Sorry Microsoft, but super fucking Lucky's Tale doesn't exactly keep me coming back for more, does it? And if I wanted the Sea of Thieves experience, I'd buy my own empty sandbox and stick a pirate hat on my head while pretending really hard that I'm having fun. The Xbox One is a bit shit. Now, Microsoft admittedly had a pretty strong E3, but once you carve away all of the glitz and the stuff the Xbox One can't claim as its own, you've got, well, just business as usual. As I said, there's promising stuff on the horizon, and Microsoft's been running around acquiring a bunch of indie studios, which would be exciting, but then you remember what they did to Rare. It's not quite like hearing EA's acquired something, that's just a death sentence, but this is more of a, well, just piddling around in a murky water, really, just flopping and paddling about, not really going anywhere. That's the Rare situation. So, you know, things might turn around. I'd like them to. As I said, I want to like the Xbox One. It's taken up real estate. But right now, to me, it's just a little bit shit. It's just a little bit shit, is the Xbox One. Shit. Thank God for me now.
Everybody's thinking about me. Consensual penis.